Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something that literally every professional bumps into at some point, delivering a truly successful project. I mean, we've all been there, right? You put in the hours, you nail the budget, and yet, somehow the final result just doesn't hit the mark for the people who actually matter most. Today, we're breaking down official project management standards to uncover that hidden link between strict quality control and the human element. We're going to transform those dry textbook standards into a real, highly practical toolkit you can use literally today.
So, what actually makes a project good? It sounds kind of philosophical, doesn't it? Is it just about crossing the finish line on time, staying under budget, or is there a more concrete, measurable way to define success? Well, for a long time, project managers just relied on a gut feeling. But to truly guarantee success, we need to transition away from those abstract ideas. We need to look at how official, structured standards actually define a good project.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Defining project quality. 2. Meeting standard requirements. 3. Identifying project stakeholders. 4. Mapping influence and interest. 5. Strategies for engagement. And 6. The final checklist. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, Defining Project Quality.
The GHOST RSO ISO 95000-2015 standard defines quality pretty simply. It says quality is the degree of conformity of an object's characteristics to established requirements. Notice that the standard doesn't say anything about making something perfect. It specifically says conformity. Quality isn't about gold-plating a project. It's entirely about meeting specific, established expectations. If you deliver exactly what was required, well, you've delivered a high-quality project.
Now, what's really interesting here is how a requirement is actually defined. It's not just some written contract. A requirement is a stated, implied, or mandatory need or expectation. That word implied is massive. I mean, it naturally leads us to ask, whose expectations are we actually trying to meet? Because if we don't know exactly who holds these implied expectations, our quality metrics are going to fall flat.
Let's move to Section 2, Meeting Standard Requirements.
According to the GHOST R ISO 2150 standard, managing project quality boils down to 3 core, actionable steps. First, you have to plan quality, deciding ahead of time exactly what the standards are. Second, you ensure quality, putting the right processes in place to build things correctly from day one. And finally, you control quality, actually checking the outputs against your initial plan. These 3 pillars, they form the absolute backbone of quality management across the entire life cycle of any project.
But here's the thing. You have to realize that quality management doesn't just happen at the end of an assembly line. It's a completely integrated knowledge area. It touches the whole shebang. Your high-level management decisions, the raw materials and equipment you choose, the actual execution of the work, and, of course, the final results. To achieve this level of comprehensive quality, you need a strategy. And that brings us right back to the human element.
So, let's dive into Section 3, Identifying Project Stakeholders.
Building a stakeholder register is a fast-paced, highly practical process. Step 1 is simply to identify. You record their category, are they business, government, an NGO, their specific role, and what they expect to get out of the project. For example, think of a vocal neighborhood board acting as an NGO with a really high interest in the environmental impact of a new build. Step 2 is where it gets analytical. You assess their influence and interest. You assign them a value, maybe on a scale of -3 to +3, or just keep it simple with weak to strong. You're essentially measuring how much they care and how much power they have to either disrupt or accelerate your project.
Next up, Section 4, Mapping Influence and Interest.
By taking that data from Step 2, we plot it onto this vibrant grid. You've got interest on the horizontal axis and influence on the vertical. Instantly, 4 distinct personas emerge. Up in the top right, with high influence and high positive interest, you have your allies. In the top left, high influence but negative interest are your opponents. Seriously, these people can literally stop your project in its tracks. Down in the bottom right are sympathizers. They love the project but lack the power to do much. And finally, in the bottom left, with low power and negative interest, are the saboteurs. Some people call them pests. They might actively organize against you, even if they can't outright cancel the whole thing.
All right, moving on to Section 5, Strategies for Engagement.
So the official standard highlights 4 very specific engagement strategies for these groups. Inactive means absolutely no interaction. This is perfect for someone with 0 influence and 0 interest.
Reactive means forced interaction. You only engage when they initiate it. Proactive means anticipating the stakeholders' desires before they even have to ask. And interactive means active involvement, literally bringing them right into the decision-making process. This framework right here is exactly how you manage your time and energy effectively.
Which leads us to the final steps of building out our register. Step 5 is to explicitly plan the format of interaction based on the strategy you just picked. Are we talking a weekly email, a daily stand-up meeting? Whatever it is, lock it in. And step 6 is vital. Record the stakeholders' specific importance and obligations. Are they required to sign off on the final product? What are their actual concrete commitments to the project? Get it all in writing.
And finally, Section 6, the final checklist.
Before you finalize anything, you've got to run through this critical checklist. Have you actually interviewed key sources like sponsors and end users, or are you just guessing what they need? Have you reflected all categories, including government and NGOs? Here's a great rule of thumb from the standard. Do you have a minimum of 10 stakeholders listed? Because if not, you probably haven't cast your net wide enough. Have you rigorously evaluated influence and interest for every single person? And, most importantly, have you formulated clear, actionable interaction activities for all of them? You can use this checklist to audit your own project documentation today.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you as a project professional. Look at the work you're doing right now. Do you truly know who the saboteurs and allies are in your current project? Or are you kind of flying blind, just hoping that meeting the technical specs will be enough? By combining strict ISO quality standards with the psychological mapping of the stakeholder register, you don't just deliver a project, you master it. Take these strategies, apply them to your workflow this week, and see for yourself how the landscape of your project changes.